Today I have a perhaps controversial video for you, but also one that I really feel like putting out there because I want to address some issues with a lot of roles and I would like to fix them. I will be going over 20 roles or even more, say why they are problematic, some more than the other of course, and give a solution to the best of my ability. I'm aware that some of these solutions are possibly not very realistic. Nonetheless, I believe that balance, which everyone will notice, is more important than a few people owning a certain role card and defending it to death. And in most cases, you could compensate them by giving them cards back, or talismans, or anything like that. Now let's dive into this list. Starting off with my number 20, we have the Storm Wolf. I don't like this role, it's ridiculously overpowered as random werewolf and with bad players, but really underpowered with good players. Since we got the Swamp Wolf buff not too long ago and I think that was actually a good buff, I think we can safely give the Storm Wolf a similar change. Once per game, you can use your Storm ability at night whilst also selecting 4 living players. When day arrives, it does no longer shuffle all players but only the 4 players that are selected by the Storm Wolf. Additionally, these 4 players will get a generic outfit and generic name so that they are completely unrecognizable for that day. After the voting phase, the 4 players are shuffled again and will get their name and outfit back, as well as have all their messages from last day removed. With the Storm, everyone's messages will still be cleared when it becomes day, but only the 4 selected players will also have their messages removed of the Storm day afterwards, but all other messages still stay. Hidden votes also still stay. With this change, unless there is an oversight on my side, the Storm Wolf can finally become useful as he selects 4 players who are completely unidentifiable for one day. Since you can select anyone, including yourself, you can essentially give the village a really hard time with finding evils in the shuffled players. Removing one use of this ability should balance it out. You can only use this once. But still, it ranks 20th as I think it might be an unrealistic change, as well as that I don't think the Storm Wolf should be the highest priority right now. For number 19, we find the Cursed. Oh boy, this is a hated role by a lot of players and I think that is fair as long as Liberty Cursed is not a thing. I get why the devs don't allow for Liberty Cursed. In case you don't know what that means, it means that the Cursed gets freedom to do whatever as long as they are unturned. But that all has to do with dominant teams, and the change regarding Cursed is unlikely since we have Lurker and Werewolf fan nowadays, so a different route could be a cap on the conversion. The annoying part of the curse is that when werewolves lose and know you, they may just convert you out of desperation or just to piss you off. What if Cursed could no longer be converted after day 3? Well, this is a suggestion I have heard a few times and could be the closest to making this role a more pleasant role, but at the same time I doubt whether it would fit. This role is a low priority and does not have an obvious fix. A role with an easy fix, at least one without resistance, is number 18. It is low because most people barely even know this role and probably never played with it. Can you guess where I'm going? If your answer is Forkman, then you are wrong, of course. No, the real answer is the Precedent. Since it's custom game exclusive right now, it's logically slept on, but the only thing this role really needs is a way to avoid the flee when you lose exploit. And what better way to solve this by introducing NPC replacing? Whenever the Precedent flees, an NPC takes the spot. The NPC cannot chat, vote, emote or whatever, it really just sits there to be a mechanic so that the evils can keep going and finish the game when they are about to. I think this is one of the best changes that the developers could make, and surely it is also one with the least resistance, as long as it is technically possible of course. Number 17 is for the Siren. This role also has had its lovers and its haters and nerf and buff suggestions, but in all honesty it's not strength where this role finds its problems, rather the toxic and useless tag ability. This role literally feels like it's created by someone who thought,
hey, I like the Avenger and Uni-Werewolf, let's add a solo now with a tag ability even though it is useless and annoying.
This role has no business in deciding the game in either villages or werewolves' favor, especially considering there's genuine joy in just selecting 3 people night 1, then revealing yourself and see people go down with you night 2. That type of fun is what we should have in crazy game modes, not in quick game or sandbox. If it comes down to me, I'd remove the tagging ability and buff it slightly by letting it kill its third entrance player in the voting phase before the night phase that you would otherwise kill him in. Example, you select 1, 2 and 3 night 1, then in night 2 you can kill 1 and 2, and then instead of waiting for night 3, you could kill player 3 during voting phase day 2. Killing in voting phase still means you cannot select new targets in the third night of course, otherwise it would be 3 kills per 2 cycles, and that might just be too much when you can also bypass and have no other downsides like the bomber. Number 16 then, which I will combine with number 15, we have the analyst and the seer here. This is really hard because I don't have too many problems with the analyst, even though it is quite strong, but I do have problems with the seer. You probably already know how I or other seer haters think of the role, but if you don't, it's toxic towards the evils as it can catch a junior werewolf, full and solo killer quite easily, and there is pretty much nothing to do against it. Claiming seer is possible, but really hard when the real seer is also active and the player you checked asks what role they have. Seer has also received a lot of suggestions, but I do also understand that it cannot be changed as it is the most simplistic role and beginner friendly. So what about this? We remove the role tree and put analyst with the aura seer or detective with a significant nerf. Seer can just appear as a non-role tree role exclusively in crazy game modes, quick games and custom games, and be banished for good from sandbox. The more complex part comes with the analyst of course, but I have a relatively easy fix. Instead of seeing the 2 auras of the 2 players exactly, you see what auras they have as a duo, but you don't know who has which. Combine that with the broken glass upon checking 2 players with the same aura, which could balance it out, and I see a perfect advanced role that requires more skill than now, as well as that it could be put in either the detective tree or the aura seer tree. That's really up to you. By far the biggest problem with this fix is that card owners with special role icons for either the seer or the analyst or both might not be too happy, but once again, balance affects all players and epic role card items only a small percentage of the players, plus refunds exist and the players could still keep their icons. For number 14 we actually have 3 roles. Yes, I think they should get the same fix. Bandit, Sect Leader and Zombie. Balance wise I think they can work quite well, especially if they are fixed and not a random killer, since setups can be adjusted accordingly in that case, but what I am not alright with still is the giving in exploit. For villagers it's easier to surrender and just to collaborate with the converter to find and kill all the werewolves, to then get converted, and if needed some players on the conversion team can be lynched to create space for new conversions. It's stupid, really annoying for that villagers who are not able to be converted anymore. It takes long and it's too easy for village and solo and too hard for werewolves. I've suggested multiple fixes in this video about giving in the past, but now the most realistic changes are to decrease the XP for winning with the solo conversion team based on how many players are converted. The more converted players, the relatively less XP you should get. Even better but harder to implement is to disable solos to convert once they are the last team standing with the village. But an exception should be made if at the start of the game there's only 2 teams, 1 converter and the village. Before I go to number 13, I'd like to remind you of the Setup Cup, which is a tournament in which you can submit your creative setup ideas for Wolvesville before December 2024. The 32 best ones will be picked and played in 2025, and the best one will even win 50 euros. If that sounds like music to your ears, check out the Google Forms to submit your setup in the description. I will also link the video with more details over there. Back to the reworks, we find the bomber in number 13. Obviously this role has its problems, but the geography based bombs are also its gimmick. To make this role less RNG, I would give this role the choice between either placing 3 bombs in one line as it is right now, or throw grenades at 2 different players that don't need to be near each other, but the grenades do not bypass protection. Of course, both still have its timer and you can use both as many times as you'd like. It's just an extra option for the bomber to make itself less reliant on spot luck, but still have it as an opportunity. Number 12 is the Wolfluencer, and for the Wolfluencer we can once again say the fix is quite easy, but it might get a bit of resistance. We are talking about a nerf, namely that you cannot select the same player twice in a row. This is a parity change with the Grumpy Grandma foremost, and this will make this role much less toxic. Currently, the Wolfluencer can just disable a player's voting for the full game as long as it is alive. Before you go comment that I want this nerf because of
you probably just hate to be mayor who reveals and then constantly gets Wolfluenced. Skill issue.
This is in fact the thing that people bring up when their beloved Wolfluencer get criticized, but I would in fact like to argue that the only small downside of this nerf is that a mayor could reveal quite easily, a bit easier than you'd maybe like it to. But let's be real, you will not see a mayor or a preacher that often in the same game as the Wolfluencer, and the Wolfluencer ruining the game for one and the same player over and over again is much more of an issue. An advantage even could be that the Wolfluencer would require a bit more skill to make sure to time the Wolfluencing happens the day that the mayor reveals. Number 11 goes to the Grave Robber. This role is pretty much perfect for the sake of Team Roulette and most other crazy game modes. But yeah, the randomness in this role explains it all. It's way too hard to get a balanced game, especially compared to Lurker and Cursed. A Grave Robber Fool, Grave Robber Arsonist, Grave Robber Vigilante, name it, all so swingy and game deciding. Since you don't ideally want to change this role as it is a really good game mechanic, just not in mainline game modes, I'd move this out of the role tree and include it a bit more in crazy game modes. This role should be in the other category. Moving a role is also what we do with our number 10, which is the role that really needs this treatment the most, if any, and it is the serial killer. This is essentially a Forkman or regular werewolf but then solo. Yes, there are roles like Arsonist and Corruptor that cannot kill night 1 quickly, but the fact that its 2 advanced roles are direct upgrades, that says enough. Either Cannibal or Evil Detective could be the base role, and there are even plenty other ideas out there for serial killer related roles, even escape buffs that could work as a new base role for the family with Cannibal and Evil Detective. In the end, one of the most important things in advanced roles versus base roles is the strength wise, they are equal. Advanced roles are just a bit more complex, with potentially greater outcome, but it has to require skill, and I would not say that the Cannibal and the Evil Detective are requiring as much skill as to justify how much stronger they can get, especially Cannibal. Speaking of the roles that are direct upgrades, I'd like to introduce you to the Trapper for spot 9. Trapper as it stands now is just a beast hunter with the option to set up more traps. Like serial killer and its advanced roles, why would anyone pick the base role when they have the option to pick the Trapper? Surely, Flagger is fine because at least you are not guaranteed to kill werewolf and more thought has to go into it. But I would nerf the Trapper by changing the kill ability into a roll block ability or a review ability if roll blocking is too weak. And then let it set 2 traps per night with a maximum of 4 active at the same time. This way you can pick Beast Hunter for its kills, the Trapper for its ease and the Flagger for its skill and flexibility. In 8th we have the Fortune Teller, and I would have put this higher if I knew better how to fix it. Currently, the Fortune Teller has the issue of being a double loudmouth, because you could say that anyone who gets a card and uses it is suspicious because they're afraid to have their role revealed upon Fortune Teller death. Hence, any good player playing Fortune Teller will just say who has the cards so that they are confirmed good and tell them not to use it. This needs a fix, and the best suggestion I found was to make the villagers who receive a card not know they received a card. In that way, villagers cannot confirm the Fortune Teller, making it non-provable. Additionally, if a non-villager gets a card and uses it, and that will reveal its real role, the other card will be deleted. This can be helpful when a werewolf with a card is already exposed by an informer, so that at least the other card's owner doesn't have their role proven when the Fortune Teller dies. 7th place goes to the Butcher. This role is quite overpowered. Its only weakness is that it cannot protect itself, but that also goes for the Doctor and the Night Watchman. So it's not a real weakness within its role tree. This role will probably get a lot of resistance, but I think this role should get 4 pieces of meat. That is still protection for night 2, 3, 4 and 5, but with the possibility to protect multiple people at the same time at the cost of having less nights, and I think that is fair. Realistically speaking, you die by the 4th night anyways as protector without self-defense, and in that way the Doctor finally has a more realistic advantage over Butcher. Keep in mind that advanced rolls should be equally as strong as the base rolls, not much stronger, just more complex and fun, I guess. The Doctor should be a good pick too, not inferior or superior to the Butcher. Then, the other Doctor advanced role, the Night Watchman, is coincidentally another problematic role and takes number 6. This role's protection are fine, but its easy confirmability power should be nerfed. My suggestion, and who knows, it might have been said before, is that the Night Watchman can watch 2 players per night and see if they are protected. It can decide if it wants to protect both these players for that night, but when you have used your protection twice, even though it didn't really save anyone, you can no longer watch and thus also no longer protect. In my eyes, unless there is a big oversight, this could be an amazing change, making this role a lot more exciting to play and also much more fair to play against, and a role that you can decently fake as well, I think, as Werewolf. If you enjoyed this video, can you do me a favor and like the video? This helps me with spreading the video. And if you agree to my takes, then also make sure to share this video wherever you want. I know not all of my takes may be realistic and definitely not all of my suggestions, but a lot of them, if not all of these roles, could really be so much better if we make them more friendly and skill based. Thank you. The top 5 kicks off with the Headhunter. This role has received the same feedback for years and yet it has never changed. Whenever someone takes this role over full, it just ruins the balance of the game, especially when the Headhunter sides with the village. The solo voting role is not supposed to be an extra villager in fact, and the Anarchist and Fool already show that it's totally possible to have it as an evil. Making the Headhunter not become village, but instead gain more Evil Alliance XP when werewolves or another non-village team wins, is the play here. They could even introduce a new end screen for evils when another evil team wins, to show that it's not quite a win but also not a loss. And if Headhunter's target dies by non-lynching in the first day and night cycle, it should get a new target. Another more cool-ish change is for the Gambler. To make it more of a gambling role and make correct guesses more satisfying, why not give no village checks or 1 village check at most at the beginning, and for every correct prediction you gain 1 village check. This brings the Gambler more on par with the Aura Seer and Spirit Seer and especially makes the role more fun and skill based. This is definitely not my own idea, by the way. I see this very often in the feedback forums in the Wolvesville Discord, but I would like to just mention it. Bronze medal goes to the Confusion Wolf. The Shaman role tree is really something different balance wise. You have one of the weakest werewolves with arguably the strongest werewolf in the game in one tree and another one that leans towards the very strong and one that sits in the middle. Confusion Wolf is the one where we start. It is way too easy to get result from this role and the result is very strong. You'd expect an easy role like this to be the base role and the skillful role like the Shaman to be advanced, but no, it is the opposite. Hiding roles as a mechanic actually works quite well in my opinion, and it is definitely something that contributes to confusing the village, which is, well, definitely the theme of the whole Wolf Shaman tree. But the fact that you get to see the role of the killed player and they also become unrevivable is just way too strong. Nerfing this role could go in a lot of directions, but I advise to pick 1 or at most 2 of these. Option 1. Make it have 1 use. This means it's just less impactful overall but might make it too weak. Option 2. Don't hide solo killer skills. This is just my least preferred option. And option 3. Make werewolves also not see the hidden roles. This is the best option in my opinion because it makes the game much more skill based also for the werewolves. They will need some brains to figure out what they just killed and even more to make use of that. Please implement this. The second and first place are the easiest and most necessary ones. You can guess it in the comments if you want to. And of course, they are for the Wolf Shaman and the Astronomer respectively. Let me explain. Shaman is that one role we just talked about as being a candidate for the weakest werewolf in the game. It has already been buffed in the past by letting it enchant players as less living werewolf, but it should be more consistent. Just imagine this, you have a setup with Detective and Aura as base roles, and they become Mortician and Spirit Seers. Well, there goes your ability. I want the Shaman to apply to every Informer and here is how. Mortician, The enchanted player will always appear as a suspect as well as the real killer. Red Lady. Visiting an enchanted player will kill the Red Lady. Honestly, this one might not be needed, but let's move on. Spirit Seer. Enchanted players are red when werewolves are killed. Gambler. I'm not 100% sure if enchants already impact gamblers, but they should. Make enchanted players appear as werewolves. Sheriff. You can also include enchanted players here amongst the suspect as well as the real killer. And for the violinist, it should appear as a werewolf. So when a villager died, it should not be mourning. For Pacifist, Vigilant, Fortune Teller and Bellringer, I just keep it as it is. They are kind of different type of reveal ability roles, kinda. And they should just see through the enchantment and see a real role. For first, we have the Astronomer though. This role is really due for a nerf. The new moon is a tool that allows you to confirm yourself by announcing you will summon it. It blocks werewolves for a night with practically no effort and with guaranteed outcome. My personal favorite idea is to go back to how the Astronomer used to be before its buff, namely that it blocks every single player with its ability. Before you leave an angry comment down below saying it will make it useless, no, you are wrong, it's not gonna be useless, let me explain. There are plenty instances namely in which you know 2 of the evils and can only lynch 1 and you have no more bullets. It happens all the time in close endgames, in fact, or just in general when you don't need information anymore. Yes, using it for night 2 will not be viable, maybe it's gonna be kind of a weak thing for informers unless you really happen to have AFK gunners and 2 werewolves exposed. But are you guaranteed as safe as a witch or forger by night 2 or 3 even? No, of course not. There's no issue in saving up the ability for late. Either way, let me know what you think of my ideas to change these 20 or 22 I guess if you include bandit, sack leader and zombie as separate roles, and if you have any role you would like to see changed. Let me know it in the comments as well as how you would fix it. Also, if you disagree with any of it, let me know it in the comments as well, and especially let me know the why. I just hope you get less roles with reveal power because it sucks life out of the matches, as well as roles that get a big outcome for minimal effort. Some of my ideas are probably not the best, especially role removing is tricky, but there are plenty people with good ideas for the game posting them in the feedback forums in the official Wolvesville Discord. I will link that in the description. I definitely check it out if this is of any of your interest. If you loved what you just saw, then make sure to check out this juicy video I have here for you. You can also subscribe and turn on epic notifications to never miss a future upload. My social links, including Discord server, are in the link tree. Link is in the description. I will see you later and don't be a traitor.